Fire has a way of changing everything in an instant. One moment I was floating down the aisle, a vision in white silk and lace, and the next I was engulfed in flames that seemed to appear from nowhere. I remember the exact second it happened. The string quartet was playing Pachelbel's canon. My father's arm was linked through mine, and Liam was waiting at the altar with that crooked smile I fell in love with. The cathedral's stained glass windows cast rainbow shadows across the marble floor, and everything felt perfect, too perfect. Then came the heat, a sudden searing sensation at my back that made me stumble mid-step. The murmurs started before I even realized what was happening. Someone screamed. The smell of burning fabric filled my nostrils, and when I turned my head, I saw the flames climbing up my train. "Kennedy!" Liam's voice cut through the chaos as he rushed toward me. The perfect white dress, the one I'd spent months designing, was becoming my prison. Smoke burned my eyes as I tried to escape the growing inferno. "Get it off her!" Barbara's voice rang out from somewhere in the crowd. My soon-to-be mother-in-law's words carried more command than concern. Liam reached me just as the flames started licking at my skin. He tackled me to the ground, rolling us both as guests scattered in panic. The weight of his body smothered the fire, but not before it had done its damage. "Are you okay? Kennedy, look at me." His hands cupped my face, eyes wild with fear. I nodded, though every inch of me was trembling. "I'm fine," I managed to whisper, but the words tasted like ash in my mouth. The pristine cathedral now reeked of smoke and singed hair. My beautiful dress lay in charred ruins around me. Barbara appeared beside us, her perfectly manicured hands clutching her chest. "Oh, darling, what a tragedy. That expensive dress, all gone to waste." Her words carried a strange undertone that made me look up sharply. Was that satisfaction I detected in her eyes? "Mother, not now," Liam snapped, helping me to my feet. My best friend Maya was already there with her jacket, wrapping it around my shoulders to cover what remained of my dress. "I'm just saying, perhaps it's a sign," Barbara continued, her voice honey-sweet but her eyes cold. "Maybe we should postpone. We're getting married today." I cut her off, surprising myself with the steel in my voice. "I'll wear a garbage bag if I have to, but I'm marrying your son today, Barbara." Liam squeezed my hand, and I saw pride flash across his face. But Barbara's expression hardened for just a moment before she recovered her society smile. "Of course, dear, whatever you want." She turned to the gathered crowd. "Everyone, please remain calm. We'll take a short break while we sort this out." As the guests filed out, murmuring among themselves, Maya pulled me aside to the bridal suite. "Kennedy, that wasn't an accident," she whispered, checking my burns. "I saw something just before it happened. Someone near your train with—" "Don't," I interrupted, my hands still shaking. "Not now, just help me find something else to wear." But as Maya rushed off to find a solution, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Mascara streaked down my cheeks, hair singed at the ends, skin reddened from the heat. Behind me, through the doorway, I could see Barbara speaking intensely with her friend Sophia, both of them glancing my way with barely concealed disdain. In that moment, studying Barbara's reflection, I remembered something she'd said at the rehearsal dinner. "Fire purifies, doesn't it? Burns away what doesn't belong." A chill ran down my spine, despite the lingering heat on my skin, because now I understood. This was just the beginning. My wedding day hadn't just gone up in flames, it had ignited something far more dangerous. And as I stood there, wrapped in Maya's jacket and my ruined dreams, I made a silent vow. If Barbara wanted fire, I would give her an inferno. The borrowed white cocktail dress felt wrong against my skin. As I moved through the reception hall, Maya had worked miracles finding it, but nothing could erase the acrid smell of smoke that seemed to follow me everywhere. "At least you're still standing," Ethan said, appearing beside me with 2 champagne flutes. "Though I have to say, sis, you know how to make an entrance." I accepted the drink, grateful for his attempt at levity. Liam's younger brother had always been the family rebel, and right now, his irreverence was exactly what I needed. "Barbara's been telling everyone it was the candles," He continued, his voice dropping. But I saw Sophia near your dress, just before. There you are. Barbara's voice cut through our conversation like a knife. She glided toward us, her designer dress immaculate, not a hair out of place. Ethan, darling, the string quartet needs direction about their next set. I'm sure they can figure it out themselves, Mother. Now please. Her tone left no room for argument. Ethan squeezed my arm before leaving, shooting his mother a look that could have curdled milk. Barbara turned to me, her smile never reaching her eyes. Kennedy, dear, I've been meaning to ask, what exactly were you thinking, spending so much on that dress, especially given your background? The champagne turned bitter in my mouth. The dress was within our budget, Barbara. Of course, of course. Though perhaps if you'd gone with my recommendation, that lovely boutique Sophia owns, this unfortunate incident could have been avoided. Before I could respond, Liam appeared, sliding his arm around my waist. Mother, the caterers need you in the kitchen. Something about the sauce for the main course? Barbara's face tightened. Impossible. I personally oversaw the preparation this morning. She hurried away, her heels clicking against the marble floor. You okay? Liam asked, pressing a kiss to my temple. Your mother thinks I'm not good enough for you. The words slipped out before I could stop them. She thinks no one's good enough for me. He tried to smile, but I saw the strain around his eyes. Look, I know she can be difficult, but she's just protective. Give her time. A commotion from the kitchen drew our attention. Barbara's voice carried across the hall. This is completely unacceptable. The entire sauce is ruined. I should check on that, Liam said, already pulling away. Always the dutiful son. I watched him go, remembering how he'd tackled me to the ground earlier, saving me from the flames. Why couldn't he show that same fierce protection when it came to his mother's subtle attacks? Maya materialized at my side. You need to see this, she whispered, pulling out her phone. She showed me a photo, grainy but clear enough. It showed Sophia near my dress, just before the ceremony, her hand reaching toward the train, with something small and metallic glinting in her palm. I knew it, I breathed. There's more. Maya swiped to another photo. Barbara and Sophia in intense conversation, Barbara pressing something into her friend's hand. The timestamp showed it was taken minutes before the ceremony. The evidence made my blood run cold. She really tried to. Kennedy. Barbara's voice made me jump. Maya quickly pocketed her phone. Be a dear and help me sort out this catering disaster. After all, you're family now. I met her gaze, seeing the challenge there. The woman who had potentially tried to harm me was now asking for my help, testing my ability to play the perfect daughter-in-law. Of course, Barbara, I smiled, matching her saccharine tone. I'd love to help. As I followed her toward the kitchen, I caught Sophia watching us, her perfectly painted lips curved in a knowing smirk. The weight of Maya's photos burned in my mind. They thought they knew what they were dealing with, a naive girl from the wrong side of the tracks, desperate to fit into their world. But they had no idea what I was capable of. I'd fought my way up from nothing, designed my own success from scratch. If Barbara wanted to play games, she'd learn that sometimes the most dangerous fire is the one you don't see coming. Coming, dear, Barbara called, holding the kitchen door open with that same plastic smile. I straightened my borrowed dress and stepped forward. Right behind you, Mother. 3 weeks after the wedding, I found myself in the back of Barbara's catering kitchen, pretending to admire her empire while my phone recorded every word. The industrial space gleamed with stainless steel and old money, just like its owner. Liam always dreamed of running this place, Barbara said, trailing her fingers along a pristine countertop. Ever since he was a boy. Really? He never mentioned that. I kept my voice neutral, though my stomach clenched. Liam had always talked about opening his own restaurant, something modern and innovative. Nothing like his mother's traditional catering business. Oh yes, he was just waiting for the right time. She paused, examining a copper pot with theatrical intensity. Of course, that was before he met you and got all those unusual ideas. The phone burned in my pocket as I remembered Maya's photos from the wedding. Unusual ideas. The fusion restaurant concept. She waved her hand dismissively. So risky, so common. Thank goodness the bank rejected his loan application. My head snapped up. What? Oh, didn't he tell you? False concern dripped from her words. The bank turned him down last week. Something about his credit history showing unexpected problems. The pieces clicked together like a poison puzzle. Before I could respond, Sophia burst through the kitchen doors. Barbara, darling, we have a situation. She stopped short at seeing me. Oh, hello, Kennedy. What situation? Barbara's voice sharpened. The Hamilton wedding. Their original caterer just canceled, and they're asking for us. It's this weekend. This weekend. Barbara's eyes lit up. That's a $50,000 contract at least. They specifically requested Liam's signature dish, the one from that magazine feature. I watched Barbara's face darken. That feature had brought Liam significant attention in the culinary world. Attention that had nothing to do with his mother's influence. Unfortunately, Barbara said, Liam's fully booked this weekend with our regular events. But he's not, I cut in. He specifically kept this weekend free for a pop-up restaurant trial. Barbara's smile turned glacial. Did he? Well, family business comes first. I'm sure he'll understand. I stepped closer, my voice low. You can't just… Kennedy. Ethan's voice echoed through the kitchen. He burst in, face flushed. I've been looking everywhere for you. You need to see this. He thrust his phone at me. On the screen was an email from the bank, forwarded from Liam's account. It detailed irregularities in his credit history, specifically several large unauthorized purchases that had appeared in the past month. Keep scrolling, Ethan urged. The next email was from a real estate agent, apologizing that the perfect restaurant location Liam had found was no longer available. Apparently, another buyer had swooped in with a cash offer. Sophia's boutique, Ethan explained quietly. They're expanding. I looked up to find Barbara watching me with that same plastic smile, but now I could see the satisfaction lurking beneath it. She'd orchestrated everything, the loan rejection, the lost property, and now this attempt to hijack Liam's signature dish for her own profit. You know, I said carefully, it's interesting how things keep going wrong for Liam whenever he tries to step out of your shadow. Barbara's smile didn't waver. Life is full of disappointments, dear. Best he learns that now, with family to support him. Family? Ethan scoffed. Is that what you call this? Ethan, Barbara warned. Remember who pays for your apartment. He flinched but stood his ground. Kennedy, show her the photos. Photos. Sophia's voice cracked slightly. My hand touched my phone, thinking of Maya's evidence from the wedding. But no, not yet. This wasn't the moment. I needed more. Nothing important, I said smoothly. Just some wedding pictures I wanted to share, but they can wait. I should go tell Liam about the Hamilton opportunity. Unless you'd prefer to break his heart yourself, Barbara. Her eyes narrowed at my choice of words. For a moment, the mask slipped, and I saw something dangerous flash across her face. Give him my love, she said finally. I walked out of that kitchen with my head high, but my hands were shaking. The recording in my pocket felt like a lit fuse, and Maya's photos burned in my mind, like the flames that had consumed my wedding dress. Game on, Barbara, game on. Maya's studio felt like the only safe place left in Chicago. I spread the evidence across her workbench. Photos, recordings, bank statements, while she paced behind me, camera dangling forgotten around her neck. You need to tell Liam, she said for the third time. Tell him what? That his mother tried to burn me alive at our wedding. That she's systematically destroying his dreams. My fingers traced the edges of a bank statement, showing the mysterious charges that had ruined his credit. He'd never believe it without proof. You have proof. I have suspicions and circumstantial evidence. I picked up her wedding photos. These aren't clear enough to prove Sophia did anything deliberate. The studio door opened, and Ethan slipped in. bringing a gust of autumn air with him. Bad news. Mother Dearest just convinced the Hamilton family to sign an exclusive 5-year catering contract. Using Liam's recipes? I asked, already knowing the answer. Every signature dish he's ever created. Ethan's face was grim. She's presenting it as a family collaboration. My phone buzzed, a text from Liam. Mom just offered me head chef position at the catering company. Full creative control. Should we talk about it? She's brilliant, I whispered, the phone shaking in my hand. She's taking everything he wanted and twisting it into something she controls. Kennedy. Maya's voice had that careful tone she used with spooked photography subjects. What are you thinking? I looked at the evidence spread before me, pieces of a puzzle showing Barbara's true nature. Then I thought about Liam's text, his excitement about finally getting creative control. Not understanding, it was just another cage. I'm thinking it's time to stop playing defense. I pulled up the recording from Barbara's kitchen. Ethan, you said Sophia's been skimming money from the boutique expansion. He nodded. The real estate agent let it slip. The numbers don't match what Mother thinks they paid. And Maya, you still have contacts at that culinary magazine? The one that did Liam's feature. Yeah, why? Before I could answer, the studio door burst open. Barbara stood there, Sophia hovering behind her like a well-dressed shadow. Well, Barbara said, surveying the evidence spread across the workbench. Isn't this cozy? Maya stepped forward, but I caught her arm. Barbara, we were just discussing the Hamilton contract. Were you? Because it looks like you're plotting something rather unfortunate. She moved closer, perfectly manicured nails trailing across the photos. You know, Kennedy, I had such hopes that you'd learn your place in this family. Like Sophia knows hers? I met her gaze steadily. How much did you really pay for that boutique expansion, Barbara? Sophia stiffened. Barbara's smile never wavered, but something deadly flashed in her eyes. Careful, dear. You're playing a game you don't understand. Don't I? Tell me, does Liam know where his original recipes are going? Or did you convince him that putting them under the family brand was his idea? Everything I do is for this family. No, I said quietly. Everything you do is for control. Barbara's mask slipped for just a moment. She reached for the photos, but I was faster, sweeping everything into Maya's camera bag. You want a war, little girl? Fine. Barbara's voice was silk over steel. But remember, I've been doing this since before you were born, and I always protect what's mine. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Kennedy, Liam's accepting the head chef position. We're announcing it at dinner tonight. Do try to look surprised. After they left, the studio felt colder somehow. Maya touched my shoulder. What now? I looked at my phone, at Liam's text glowing on the screen. The man I loved was walking into a trap, and I had to decide, expose Barbara's schemes and risk losing him, or watch him surrender his dreams to his mother's control. Now, I said, pulling up my design software, we give Barbara exactly what she wants. Attention. Maya, call your magazine contact. Ethan, I need everything you have on Sophia's financial dealings. What are you planning? Ethan asked. I thought about fire, about how it doesn't just destroy, it transforms. I'm planning to let Barbara be exactly who she is, in public, where everyone can see. The sun was setting outside Maya's studio windows, painting Chicago's skyline in shades of flame. Somewhere across the city, Barbara was preparing to chain her son to her legacy. But she'd forgotten something crucial about me. I'd grown up with nothing. I had nothing left to lose, except Liam. Always Liam. The Hamilton wedding was in full swing when everything fell apart. I stood in the corner of the grand ballroom, watching Barbara work the crowd like a conductor leading her orchestra. Liam moved through the kitchen doors, carrying his signature dish, now branded as a family recipe, while Sophia circulated with her tablet, booking future events. My phone vibrated. Maya had sent the final draft of the magazine exposé. One click would send it to print, revealing everything: the sabotage, the financial manipulation, the wedding day attack. My finger hovered over the screen. Quite the triumph, isn't it? Barbara materialized beside me, champagne in hand. Liam's never been more successful. Is that what you call this? I gestured to where Liam was explaining his dish to guests, carefully following Barbara's script. Stealing his dreams and selling them as your own? I'm securing his future, our future. She sipped her champagne. Though I suppose you wouldn't understand family loyalty, given your background. Before I could respond, Ethan burst through the kitchen doors. The health inspector's here. Something about an anonymous complaint. Barbara's glass froze halfway to her lips. What? They're shutting down the kitchen. Something about cross-contamination risks. I watched the color drain from Barbara's face as she rushed toward the kitchen. It wasn't part of my plan, but I couldn't help feeling a flash of satisfaction. Someone else was fighting back. Did you do this? Ethan whispered. I shook my head, but before I could explain, Sophia approached with her tablet. Kennedy dear, could you look at something? There seems to be an issue with the website. The catering company's homepage had been replaced with financial records, specifically the doctored books, showing how Barbara had been manipulating Liam's credit history. My handiwork launched precisely when the health inspector arrived. Sophia's eyes narrowed. You really think you can win this? I think it's already won. I held up my phone, showing the magazine article, ready to send. How long before everyone knows what really happened at my wedding? You'll destroy him too, she said quietly. Liam's reputation will never recover. The truth of her words hit me like a physical blow. From the kitchen, I could hear Barbara arguing with the health inspector, her voice rising in panic. Liam emerged, confusion etched on his face as he read something on his phone. Probably the financial records, now public on the website. Kennedy? He looked up, seeking me out. What's going on? Barbara returned, her perfect composure cracking. Someone is trying to destroy us. The health inspection, the website, it's all coordinated. The question is who? Sophia added, staring directly at me. Liam followed her gaze, and I saw the moment doubt crept into his eyes. Kennedy, the room seemed to shrink, trapping us all in this moment of unraveling. My phone felt heavy in my hand, the magazine expose waiting to deliver the final blow. One click, and Barbara's empire would burn to ash. But so would every dream Liam had ever had. Tell him, Barbara challenged, her voice carrying that same tone from my wedding day. Tell him how you've been plotting against his family. Our family, I corrected automatically, but the words tasted wrong. Liam stepped closer, his chef's whites still immaculate despite the chaos. Kennedy, whatever's happening, we can fix this. Together. Just tell me you're not involved. I looked at my husband, the man who'd saved me from the flames at our wedding, who still couldn't see that his mother had lit the match. The man whose dreams were being stolen and repackaged as family obligations. The man I loved enough to burn everything down for. My finger moved over the phone screen. Kennedy. Maya's voice cut through the tension. She stood in the doorway, camera in hand, something like warning in her eyes. Don't. But I was already moving, already choosing. Because sometimes the only way to save someone is to let everything else burn. I met Barbara's gaze as my finger descended toward the screen. You wanted a war, I said softly. Remember that. The look of triumph in Barbara's eyes shifted to something else, something almost like respect or fear, because she finally realized what I'd known since my wedding day. When you've already been burned, you're not afraid of the flames anymore. I pressed send. The magazine hit like a bomb at dawn. By noon, Barbara's empire was burning, and my marriage lay in the ashes. I sat alone in our apartment, watching my phone explode with notifications. The story had gone viral. Barbara's manipulation exposed in stark detail, complete with financial records and witness statements. Maya's photos of the wedding dress incident were particularly damning, showing Sophia's deliberate actions in crystal-clear sequence. Liam hadn't come home last night. You did the right thing, Ethan said, pacing behind my chair. The company's stock is in free fall. Mother's board of directors is calling for her resignation. Then why does it feel like I lost? My voice sounded hollow, even to my own ears. My phone rang. Barbara's number. I let it go to voicemail, as I had the previous dozen times. The message she left was different this time, though. Just 3 words. He knows everything. The apartment door opened. Liam stood there looking like he hadn't slept in days. The sight of him made my chest ache. "Is it true?" he asked quietly. "All of it?" "Yes." He moved to the window, his back to me. "The loan rejection." She blocked it. "The restaurant location." She had Sophia buy it first. "The wedding dress." I couldn't answer that one. Didn't need to. The photos in the magazine spoke for themselves. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice cracked slightly. "Would you have believed me over her?" His silence was answer enough. "I had to protect you," I said, standing. "She was destroying everything you'd worked for." "By exposing everything to the world?" He turned, and the devastation in his eyes stopped me cold. "My reputation is ruined. Every recipe I've created is now tainted by scandal. No investor will touch me after this." "Liam, you didn't protect me, Kennedy. You burned everything to the ground." My phone buzzed again. Maya, warning me that Barbara was making a public statement. I switched on the TV just in time to see her step up to a podium, tears streaming down her perfectly made-up face. "My own daughter-in-law," she sobbed to the cameras, "whom I welcomed into our family, has orchestrated this vicious attack on our business, our reputation, our very lives." Ethan swore softly. "She's turning it around, making herself the victim." "I only pray," Barbara continued, "that my son can forgive me for not seeing through her deception sooner. This woman, who came from nothing, clearly intended to destroy our family from the start." I felt Liam stiffen beside me. The words he'd used to defend me to his mother so many times. She came from nothing, now twisted into a weapon. My phone lit up with a text from Sophia. "Check your email." The message contained a video, security footage from my wedding day, but this version was edited, making it look like I had orchestrated the dress incident myself for attention. Barbara's team had been sitting on this, waiting. "She's going to release it," I whispered. "Of course she is." Liam's voice was tired. "It's what you taught her to do." The truth of his words hit me like a physical blow. In trying to expose Barbara's manipulation, I'd become just as calculating, just as ruthless. "I'm staying at Ethan's," Liam said, moving toward the door. I need time. Liam, please. You know what's funny?" He paused, hand on the doorknob. "I always thought it would be my mother's controlling nature that destroyed us. Never imagined it would be your need for revenge." After he left, Ethan tried to speak, but I waved him away. I stood alone in my apartment, watching Barbara's tearful performance replay on the news. My phone kept buzzing, journalists wanting comments, social media exploding with theories, Maya trying to reach me. I switched it off. On the TV, Barbara was still speaking. "Sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who hurt us deepest." I caught my reflection in the darkened window, determined, angry, ruthless. In trying to protect Liam from Barbara's manipulation, I'd become something worse than she ever was. Because Barbara, for all her faults, had never pretended to be anything but what she was. I had become a liar, a manipulator, a destroyer, and I had no one to blame but myself. The security guard at Barbara's office building didn't even try to stop me. Maybe he'd seen the news, or maybe something in my face told him to stay out of my way. I found her in her corner office, methodically shredding documents while Sophia paced nearby. "It's over, Barbara." My voice sounded strange in the empty space. "The board voted you out an hour ago." She didn't look up from the shredder. "Nothing's over until I say it is." The unedited security footage from my wedding. I placed a USB drive on her desk. Ethan found it in the company archives, the real version, showing everything. That got her attention. Her hands stilled on the papers. "Sophia," Barbara said quietly, "give us a moment." "Barbara, I don't think—" Out. Sophia hesitated, then gathered her things. As she passed me, she whispered, "You have no idea what you've done." The door clicked shut behind her. Barbara finally looked up, and I was struck by how small she seemed, without her usual armor of perfect makeup and designer clothes. "You know what's funny?" She gestured to the shredded papers. "I was just destroying evidence of how I protected him. All these years, covering up his mistakes, smoothing over his failures." "What are you talking about? Did Liam ever tell you about the fire at his first restaurant job? The one that nearly killed 3 people?" She pulled out a file. "Or the health code violations I paid to hide, the loans I quietly covered." My chest tightened. "You're lying." "Am I? Check the dates on these reports. Long before you came along, I was already saving him from himself." She slid the file across the desk. "He's brilliant, but reckless. Always has been." "I didn't touch the file. That doesn't justify what you did to us." "No?" She stood, moving to the window. "I built this company from nothing, worked twice as hard as any man to get here. And then my son, my brilliant, reckless son, starts making the same mistakes I did. But he had something I never had, someone to protect him. You weren't protecting him, you were controlling him. Same thing, in this world." She turned back to me, and for the first time, I saw tears in her eyes. "You think you've won. You've just ensured he'll fail without my protection. He doesn't need your protection. He needs freedom." "Freedom." She laughed bitterly. "Ask Sophia about freedom. 20 years ago, she had her own fashion line. Bold, innovative, and bankrupt within a year. I saved her, gave her the boutique, because sometimes survival means accepting a smaller dream." The office door burst open. Liam stood there, holding papers in his trembling hands. "Is it true?" he asked Barbara. "The restaurant fire, the cover-ups." She didn't answer, but her silence said everything. "I found these in Ethan's apartment," he continued. "Records of everything you've hidden, everything you've done, not just to Kennedy, but to me, for years. I did what was necessary. Necessary." His voice cracked. "You tried to kill my wife. I tried to save you from another mistake." The words hung in the air like smoke. Barbara's face crumpled as she realized what she'd admitted. "Security's coming up," Sophia called from the doorway. "Barbara, we need to go." But Barbara wasn't moving. She was staring at Liam with a desperate intensity. "Everything I did," she whispered, "I did for you." "No." Liam's voice was steel. "You did it for control, and now you've lost everything. The company, your reputation, and me." She flinched, as if he'd struck her. Then, slowly, she straightened her spine and gathered her purse. "You'll understand someday," she said softly, "when you have children of your own. Sometimes love looks like control." As security led her away, I noticed something on her desk, an old photo of Liam as a child, wearing a chef's hat and grinning at the camera. Before the manipulation, before the control, before everything burned. "Kennedy," Liam's voice pulled me back. "We need to talk." I looked at my husband, standing in the wreckage of his family's empire, and realized that winning doesn't always feel like victory. Sometimes it just feels like ashes in your mouth. The small bistro looked nothing like Barbara's elegant restaurants. Paint peeled from the walls, and the kitchen equipment had seen better days. But when Liam turned the key in the lock, his hands were steady. "It's not much," he said, flipping on the lights, "but it's mine. No family name, no borrowed reputation." I traced my fingers along the worn counter. 6 months of silence between us had led to this moment. "Why did you ask me to come?" Instead of answering, he moved behind the counter and began pulling out ingredients. The familiar rhythm of his knife against the cutting board filled the space between us. "I found this," he said finally, sliding an envelope across the counter. Inside was a letter from Barbara, postmarked from wherever she'd disappeared to after the scandal. I didn't open it. "Have you read it?" "Yes." He continued chopping, the steady rhythm never faltering. She tried to explain everything, about the fire, the cover-ups, the wedding. Said she was protecting me from my own worst impulses. Was she right? The question that had haunted me for months finally escaped. His knife stilled, maybe, about some things. He looked up, meeting my eyes. But she was wrong about you, and I was wrong to doubt you. The words I'd waited months to hear, yet they brought no satisfaction, just a hollow ache where certainty used to live. I'm not innocent either, I said quietly. I became exactly what I was fighting against. No. Ethan's voice made us both jump. He stood in the doorway, guitar case slung over his shoulder. You became what you needed to be. There's a difference. Maya appeared behind him, camera in hand as always. The place looks good. Needs some design work though. I recognized the olive branch for what it was. I might know someone who could help with that. Liam resumed chopping, but I caught the ghost of a smile. The grand opening's next week. Small menu, just my own recipes, no family traditions. Except one, Ethan said, pulling something from his case. It was the photo from Barbara's office. Young Liam in his chef's hat. Some traditions are worth keeping. Maya started setting up her camera. We should document this, the beginning of something new. Or the end of something old, I murmured. Liam placed a plate in front of me, a dish I'd never seen before. Both, maybe. I took a bite. The flavors were complex, unexpected, nothing like the safe, traditional dishes Barbara had insisted on. This was purely Liam, finally cooking without constraints. I'm not asking you to come back, he said softly. I'm asking if we can build something new, something that's just ours. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Sophia. She's in Milan, starting over, like we all are. I thought about Barbara, alone in a foreign city, stripped of her empire, but finally forced to live without controlling others. I thought about how revenge, like fire, transforms everything it touches, including the one who wields it. New doesn't mean forgetting, I said finally. It means learning. Liam nodded, understanding all I wasn't saying. He turned to the stove, adding something to a simmering pot. The smell of smoke and spices filled the air. Not the acrid burn of destruction, but the warm promise of creation. Maya's camera clicked, capturing the moment. Ethan started unpacking his guitar, humming something that might become a song about family and forgiveness and fire. I moved into the kitchen, picking up a knife. Without words, Liam shifted, making space for me at the counter. We began to cook together, finding a rhythm that was neither victory nor surrender, but something else entirely. The letter from Barbara remained unopened on the counter, a reminder that some bridges stay burned. But as the evening light filtered through the bistro's dusty windows, I realized that's what makes the new growth possible. The ashes of what came before. I picked up my knife and started chopping, adding my own rhythm to the symphony of new beginnings. Sometimes, it turns out, the real revenge is learning to live well in the aftermath of the fire.